That spring, in 1784, Versailles buzzed with anticipation for the season's final ball. The evening was destined to be the crowning glory of court life, a lavish masquerade drawing together all of aristocratic France. In the Hall of Mirrors, where Louis XIV had once dazzled centuries before, his descendant Louis XVI now held court, and the splendor and opulence showed no signs of fading. Thousands of wax candles flickered, their light bouncing off the 17 grand arches to weave an illusion of endless revelry. The air hung thick and heavy, laced with the mingled scents of floral garlands, rich perfumes carrying hints of jasmine and patchouli, the powdery dust of elaborate wigs, and the subtle spritz of orange blossom water that freshened the halls. Amid this ocean of silk, velvet, and glittering diamonds, one woman outshone them all. Viscountess Eleanor de Cambon, the king's younger brother's favorite, whispered about in courtly circles as the Night Queen of Versailles. But this night, the height of her triumph, would be her last. Her dainty slippers, keeping time to the minuet's graceful rhythm, were already poised on the brink of ruin. Her rise to fame was like something out of an old romance novel. The daughter of an impoverished nobleman from the province of Dauphiné, she arrived at court at 17 years old, with no influential patrons, no substantial dowry, armed only with extraordinary beauty and a sharp mind. Contemporaries compared her face to the works of Watteau. Languid blue eyes framed by dark lashes, a delicate nose with a subtle curve that gave her features a unique expressiveness, and lips curved into an eternal enigmatic smile. But her greatest weapon was her extraordinary gift for enchantment. She knew how to listen. Her replies were witty and light, and her demeanor blended modesty with undeniable self-assurance. Louis Philippe, Count de Provence, the king's younger brother, spotted her at a modest gathering in the Petit Trianon. It was said he lost his head in the very first moment of their meeting, drawn not just by her outward allure, but by the keen intellect she revealed in a conversation about Beaumarchais' latest play. Within a month, the humble noblewoman was granted the title of Viscountess de Cambon, and 2 months later, she received lavish apartments on the second floor of the palace, their windows overlooking the famous formal gardens. But beneath the glittering facade lurked a harsh reality. Versailles, with its tangled intrigues and rigid hierarchy, never forgave rapid ascents. Behind the elegant curtsies and sweet smiles of the courtiers hid sharp blades of envy and hatred, representatives of old aristocratic families, whose lineages stretched back centuries, disdainfully called her an upstart and a provincial Cinderella. Other favorites, sensing a dangerous rival, wove intricate webs of intrigue behind her back. But the most terrifying threat came from the Count de Provence himself. His fiery passion, which had flared so brightly, began to cool gradually. A new rising star had appeared at court, the young Duchess de Rohan, whose pedigree traced back to the times of the Crusades and was impeccable. And the Count, who always valued lineage above personal attachments, started to distance himself from his former beloved. That fateful evening began for Eleanor as a triumph. She appeared in the doorway of the gallery in a gown that had the entire court buzzing. A heavy silk dress in the color of dawn, embroidered with 1,000 tiny pearls forming whimsical floral garlands. Around her neck sparkled the famous sapphire necklace, a gift from the Count de Provence, consisting of 21 stones of extraordinary purity, framed by diamonds. She danced until midnight, passing from the arms of France's most noble gentleman. Her ringing laughter could be heard even above the orchestra's strains. But those who looked more closely might have noticed a strange detachment in her famous blue eyes. They shone with an unnatural gleam, as if veiled by a moist film of tears. It seemed she was dancing not at the season's grandest ball, but on the edge of an abyss, each movement drawing her closer to her doom. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, when the ball was in full swing, she suddenly vanished from the hall. Servants later recalled seeing her climb the famous golden staircase alone, heading to her chambers. Her maid, Jean, testified during the interrogation that the Viscountess had dismissed her unusually early, saying she'd manage on her own and didn't want to bother anyone until morning. No one saw Eleanor de Cambon alive again. At dawn, as the first rays of sunlight fell on the gilded statues in the park, she was found in her boudoir, sprawled on a Persian rug beside a silk sofa. In her slender fingers was a shattered vial of smelling salts, and pearls were scattered across the floor, as if deliberately torn from her luxurious gown. The most obvious theory from the start was suicide. Poison? Despair? Humiliation from the Count de Provence spending the whole evening with the Duchess de Rohan, openly flaunting his new affections? But sharp investigators quickly spotted odd inconsistencies. The papers in her desk were arranged too neatly, as if someone had carefully sorted through them. The candles in the candelabras were extinguished too deliberately, one by one. And crucially, her neck bore no trace of the famous sapphire necklace. It wasn't among her jewels or in any hidden boxes. A fair question arose. Would a woman about to take her own life hide away her most prized possession? Then came the second, darker theory, murder. But who could the killer be? Servants whispered about a mysterious stranger in a black mask and cloak, spotted near her apartments around 3 o'clock in the morning. Others pointed fingers at the Duchess de Rohan, whose fanatical pride and fury could be deadlier than any poison. But the most chilling version involved the Count de Provence himself. Tired of his tiresome favorite, who knew too much about his political schemes and massive gambling debts, did he order the elimination of a witness who'd become too inconvenient? The investigation, launched with great fanfare, lasted only 3 weeks before being abruptly halted by the king's personal order. The Viscountess de Cambon's case was classified and archived. Her name became taboo at court. All traces of her time at Versailles were meticulously erased. The Count de Provence married the Duchess de Rohan exactly 1 year after the tragedy. The famous sapphire necklace was never found. It vanished without a trace. The official cause of death was declared an apoplectic stroke. But in the palace corridors and on the streets of Paris, they knew the real truth. The Viscountess was eliminated, just like dozens of others who stood in the way of power and wealth. But the most chilling detail of this story emerged years later, during the Great French Revolution. When the enraged mob stormed Versailles, one of the rebels broke open an old mahogany chest in the Viscountess's former chambers. Among the yellowed papers and dried flowers, he discovered her personal diary, bound in Morocco leather. On the last page, written in a trembling hand, were these words: "Today, I will dance with the devil. He promised to restore my love and my former influence. But I know this dance will be my last. Forgive me, heaven, for my weakness." So what really happened? Was it the suicide of a desperate woman who had lost her love and status? Or a cold-blooded, meticulously planned murder? Or perhaps something else? A dark ritual, a pact with otherworldly forces that backfired on the conjurer herself? The mystery of Viscountess de Cambon remains unsolved, lost in the labyrinth of Versailles intrigues. Her final dance in the glow of thousands of candles became a sinister metaphor for the entire era, dazzling, luxurious, but inexorably heading toward its downfall. Today, strolling through the empty halls of Versailles, some particularly impressionable visitors swear they've seen her. A beautiful woman in a dress the color of morning dawn. It seems as if she's still dancing her final minuet, gliding between the mirrors, her silhouette appearing here and there, eternally seeking truth, seeking peace, seeking her unknown executioner or her ultimate salvation. Her dance has lasted for more than 2 centuries, and perhaps it won't end until the last mystery of the Old Kingdom is uncovered, and her soul finally finds peace.